so much for joining us during this momentary distraction of simple amusements and magic. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Herren, and I am Faust, and welcome to tonight's episode of Faust Company. When I was a young boy, I had read about one of the greatest magicians of the 20th century, and his name was Harry Houdini. He had such a profound influence in my life, and I'm sure that is the case for, if not thousands and millions of people. You see, Houdini was a short man, much like myself. He was an immigrant, and as the legend goes, nothing can hold him. You see, his magic was more than mere illusion. His escapes, you see, were symbols of hope, symbols of freedom, and a reminder to us all that the human spirit cannot be chained. To Harry Houdini, may he continue to inspire us from beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year to you all, and welcome once again for visiting us here at Faust Company. Tonight is a very special episode, and I do hope you stay to tune in for a while. Tonight, I was hoping to set the tone with a little bit of music, but this band leader is Drew Nugent, and he is our unofficial band leader of the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away, because when we return, we meet our featured guest of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy a little bit of music from Drew Nugent.
Hello, Central, give me Dr. Jazz. He's got what I need, I'll say he has. When the world goes wrong and I've got those blues, here's the fella that makes me wear out all my dancing shoes. The more I get, the more I want it seems. I'll paint your Dr. Jazz in my dreams. When I'm troubled, bound, and mixed, here's the guy that's got my fix. Hello, Central, give me Dr. Jazz. It seems I'll paint your Dr. Jazz in my dreams. When I'm got trouble with the belt and mixed. Yes, the guy that's got my fix. Hello Central will give me Dr. Jazz. You know the number. Hello Central will give me Dr. Jazz.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Drew Nugent, and just in case you're wondering where you could find him, take a look at this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we get to the portion that we meet our featured guest. This featured guest doesn't need an introduction by me at all, but just to give you an idea of his background and contributions to the magic community, he has been featured on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, Masters of Illusion, America's Got Talent, and also Wizard Wars. And not to mention has been featured in movies such as Superbad, and also is up for Lecturer of the Year with Penguin Magic. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce, and it is a great honor to feature, the Magic Asian Man, Naathan Phan.
Hello everyone. Now, a little bit about me as well, in addition to that wonderful introduction. Thank you for that, Chris Herren as Faust. I actually grew up doing musical theatre, so I'm used to shows starting with an opening number. I'd like to open my portion of the show with one of my favourite songs from Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. They did a musical version a few years back with Johnny Depp in the lead. If you're not familiar with the show, all you need to know is this. A young sailor by the name of Antony falls head over heels in love at first sight with a young woman named Joanna. So to woo her, he buys her a singing bird in a cage, much like this one. And he gives it to her, and they're starting to fall in love. And then her legal guardian, the evil Judge Turpin, catches them. He casts Antony out on the street and has the bird killed. In real life, fake bird, so everything's fine. So there's Antony, left stood there on the street singing about how he won't give up on his love for Joanna. At the end, he tears the cage open. It's very dramatic. But I always thought it needed a bit of a magical punch. So, with your kind indulgence, my rendition of Joanna. I feel you, Joanna, and one day I steal you till I'm with you, then I'm with you there, buried sweetly in your yellow hair. Not up the sleeves, not inside the jacket, not anywhere. That's how you start a magic program with an opening number. Hello, everyone. Once again, I am Naathan Phan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, hello, Jessica and Stephen and Edward. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. So, as undoubtedly you might have noticed, as I was introducing that first piece, you might have noticed there's a slight discrepancy between the way that I look and the way that I sound. So, allow me to address that now and just, answer the burning question in your minds. The answer is yes, I really am. Vietnamese. Good. Moving along with the rest of my program. I know many of you probably aren't used to hearing thick Vietnamese accents, but this is what we sound like. At least this is what we sounded like where I grew up, in the very northwestern part of Vietnam called Glasgow, which is where I grew up. And for any non-geography majors out there, the punchline there is that Glasgow's in Scotland, not Vietnam. Hence the jarring juxtaposition that you see before you now. Thank you, Vanessa, for the applause. So, yes, I really did grow up in Scotland. Trust me, nobody with this face picks this accent intentionally. And it was while I was growing up in Scotland that I got a very unique nickname. That nickname being Magic Asian Man. It's true, that's what they called me. My nickname wasn't always Magic Asian Man. My original nickname was Wee Man. Like Wee Man, like you're right down there, Wee Man. because that's what I sounded like back then. And then they started to call me Wee Asian Man because there's lots of wee people running about. Don't want to get all those wee people mixed up. And so they started calling me Wee Asian Man. How's the weather down there, Wee Asian Man? It's great. And then they started to call me something else, Magic Asian Man, which really wasn't so much something they called me, so much they sang at me. And I always went to a very specific tune, and I bet you can guess the song. There goes Naathan Phan, Magic Asian Man. I've given you an earworm, so you can't forget my nickname. There we go. And once again, I do apologize in advance because that will get stuck in your head, as we say back in Scotland. So yeah, that's what I got to do. Let's see here, and I'm just gonna fade this music out. There we go. Excellent. The magic of electronics and magnets. Fantastic. I'm just tickled pink. I'm so absolutely excited to be here performing on Faust Company, as well as just performing in general. Don't get me wrong, it is wonderful to perform virtually. It affords so many things that, hello Shriyash, thank you so much for watching. It is something that is so unique and totally different. Don't get me wrong, I love live performing. I can't wait to get back to live performing, but this is pretty extraordinary in its own right. I was doing a show a few months back, and I literally had a mermaid in the audience. I'm not kidding. Like, I looked down at my Zoom screen, and one of the windows was of a mermaid in a swimming pool with her tail, like, just in the air behind her. And instead of applauding, she just splashed the water with her tail instead. It was incredible. Almost worth an entire pandemic. Almost. Not quite. Actually, that's a terrible thing to say. Not worth a pandemic just for that. But at least one of the highlights for me in these very strange and interesting times. But I am excited to get back to performing in the real world. Normally what I do before the pandemic, I was performing pretty consistently on cruise ships. And you meet very interesting people on cruise ships. It's a completely different dynamic because, when you normally do a show, you perform, and then maybe you meet the audience on the way out, and then that's it. You're gone. You disappear. You move to the next town or next theater or whatever it is. On a cruise ship, you are stuck with that audience for like the next week as you drop into ports throughout the world. And the buffet is only so big. People are going to run into you, and they're going to see you, and they ask you questions. And the one thing I get asked more than anything else on a cruise ship, usually an older man with a manic glint in his eye will walk up to me and say, "I got a question for you, magic boy. Can you make my wife disappear?" And then he laughs as if he's the first person to ever ask me that before. And for the longest time, I would just respond by saying, I can't make her disappear, but I know a guy in New Jersey, 15 grand, you'll never see her again. Oh, and then we both laugh, except for the wife who just looks mildly disappointed. Because no one in a healthy relationship asks that question, even if it's for a laugh. There's always some kind of underlying current of trouble, isn't there? And so the more and more I heard this question, the more it started to bother me fundamentally. So now I have a different response. Whenever somebody asks me, "Hey, can you make my wife disappear?" I look them dead in the eyes and I say, "I can't, but you keep on asking questions like that, she's going to disappear on her own." Second, I'm just gonna take a nip of water. Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much for all the applause and the comments under Edward Underwood, all those. So in addition to being on like TV shows and movies and doing musical theater, I do a whole bunch of assortment of things, and I try to bring them all into my magic because magic is a very interesting, unique performance art. It's the only performance art in the world where about half the audience is trying to ruin it for themselves the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, when you see a magician, some people, they just have very analytical minds. It's the way they enjoy it, so it's not their fault. I don't blame them for that. But in their head, they're thinking things like, all right, well, there's a trapdoor on the floor, and the smoke is covering this thing. Or sometimes they even feel emboldened enough to shout out, "It's in your other hand," right? But, when you're watching a ballet and you watch the dancer go en point, you don't lean over to your mate next to you like, there's padding in those shoes that allows her to do that thing on her toes. Or when you're watching a production of Julius Caesar, you don't sit there thinking to yourself, "That's a fake knife, the blade retracts into the handle, that's fake blood." You don't even shout out, "You're not dead, I can see you breathing." You don't do that. So magic is different, which is why I'm trying to bring as much theatricality into my magic as possible, because there is something very magical about the theater, isn't there? I'll never forget, my most vivid memory, magical memory, is not of a magic show, but of a theater production I saw. I was watching a production of a show called Guys and Dolls. If you're not familiar with it, it's a classic of American musical theater. The show starts 1950s New York, and three men in sharp suits walk out and they start singing about a tip they've heard from the racetrack. And they sing this song that's kind of like "Row, Row, Row Your Boat," but on steroids, because the melody stays the same, but the lyrics are constantly changing. It's actually quite difficult and challenging. And so there's the one lead person there, Nicely Johnson, is singing. And as he's singing, he's holding his prop newspaper, and it's an old prop newspaper, one he probably should have swapped out because as he's singing and he's gesturing, he accidentally tears the newspaper. And now it would have been very easy for him to just kind of stop singing and try to sort that out or to avoid it. But instead, he embraces the magic that is live theatre. He embraces the mistake, and he starts to tear the newspaper into smaller and smaller pieces until finally at the end, all three of them hit their harmony and throws the pieces up in the air like a jumbo confetti finale, and they got a standing ovation for a mistake they made in the opening number. That is magic. Now, of course, on the flip side of that, as an actor, I was sat there the whole time wondering, what would I have done had that happened to me? And I figured it out. If that had happened to me, it would have looked something like this. I got the horse right here, his name is Paul Revere, and there's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do. If he says the horse can do, I can do. This guy says the horse can do. If he says the horse can do, I can do. So make it Paul Revere. Now this is no bum steer. That's from the handicapper. That's real sincere. Can't lose. This guy says the horse can't lose. If he says the horse can't lose. For Paul Revere a bite, I hear his foot's alright. Of course it all depends if it rained last night. Likes mud. This X means the horse likes mud. If he says the horse likes mud. Paul Revere, I got the horse right here. There it is, every single piece back together again. Whoop. All right, folks, my name is Naathan Phan, the Magic Asian. That is it for me magic-wise. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now let's welcome back Chris Herren as Faust.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan. That was a wonderful performance. Needless to say, you are a storyteller and a showman indeed. Thank you very much for joining us, Nathan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to get a nice hint of what you do on the stage. And I have to ask you, Nathan, what came first, the music or the magic?
Honestly, that is a good question. Honestly, the magic. The magic came in when I was about 5-6 years old. And thank you very much, Anessa. Appreciate that. I got started in magic when I was about 5 years old. My grandfather bought me a kit for like Christmas or something, and he'd always loved like magic and pranks and things like that, and then he saw how much I kind of took to it and really fostered that love, and then around the time and then I started I really fell in love with like the concept of like movies. Like I loved watching those behind the scenes of movies and thinking that looks like so much fun. And it wasn't really until like the Harry Potter movies came out and I saw like all these young actors who were working and having fun. I was like, I could do this, right? And then and then I started learning about improv. I took it in middle school. I took acting in middle school, and then high school, I went to an arts school where I auditioned for the acting program and I was not accepted. And instead, I went into their writing program because I also had a bit of affinity for storytelling.
Yes.
This is just different because you just sit down and write it out as opposed to just making it up and saying it, all in one take out loud. And so then I got into writing. And then from there, one of my writing teachers, John Blaylock, who was the son of legendary sci-fi fantasy author James P. Blaylock, but his son John was directing a musical at a nearby youth theater and said, you got great energy in class, come on down, audition for this musical. And I did, and then I just started doing musical after musical after musical at that point. And originally, I thought to myself, there's no way I can make a living as a magician. That's just ridiculous. I'm going to do acting instead. That seems so much more feasible than being a professional magician.
Yes.
And I pursued that pretty whole hog until I was like 19. and I realized, oh, there is some money in magic. Look at this.
Well, it definitely gives us a nice idea of how your show would go. I have to ask you, for those of people who have never seen your show before, how would you describe, in summary, how the show would go? I know that you add touches of music, magic, and storytelling, but could you elaborate a little bit about it?
Yeah, kind of one of the catchphrases that I use right now is sleight of hand singing and storytelling is kind of the easiest way to kind of explain it to people. Some people also call me kind of like a neo vaudevillian
Yeah,
because there are lots of aspects. Some people say I'm like the Sammy Davis Jr. of magic. And
wonderful.
that's high praise. And so yeah, when you see me, you're gonna get to hear stories about who I am, stories from my life, stories from on stage, as well as a good mix of like musical theater and magic. You're going to get to hear some impressions, some stand up comedy. I kind of just am trying to give the audience like the most that I can give them. A very unique show, first of all. I want the audience walking
Yes.
out saying, first of all, that was so worth my time to see. Because to me, the
Yeah.
audience experience is paramount above everything else. That was worth my time. And I don't think I ever have seen a show like that, and I never will see a show like that again. And I'm so glad I got to see the show because it was so singularly unique in every aspect. So
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to do. I just want them to walk out just elated for having seen and experienced and shared it with me.
That's a wonderful summary. And as speaking of which, you mentioned to me earlier before the show that you had some things planned, but nothing concrete just yet. Are you planning to do virtual shows? I know you'd love to get into the live, but in the meantime, how about the virtual shows?
Oh yeah, so right now what I've kind of been doing is every once in a while I'll schedule like a public virtual show, and I'm still what I kind of have been doing is using all these private events that I've been booking.
Yeah.
I've been booking virtual lectures and virtual shows since the pandemic started, and I've been using those kind of as like a trial run before I take it to the public. So I think I'm almost ready at this point to put together to have a really solid like virtual show that's not as much as me trying to like create a replacement for a live show, but a completely separate experience.
Yes.
So I do have some virtual stuff planned. Some of it's going to be more like my typical show, where it's going to be the singing and the magic, and then I'm also trying to do just some virtual concerts. Because
Yeah.
I studied so long to make my voice what it is, and I get lots of compliments from people about the voice and saying how I should just do singing shows. I'm trying to also put together these headliner shows. When you do cruise ships, as a guest entertainer, you have these headliner sets that are about 45 minutes. And so I have two different 45-minute magic shows that I do on cruise lines. Hello, Denise. Yes, you saw me on the Holland America Alaska line, so that would be in the Boland Dam. Yes, that was one of the best times in my life. Thank you for tuning in to watch this. But I also am putting together these 45-minute singing shows so that
Yeah.
when cruise lines come back, they can bring me on board and get more than just two magic shows out of me. They can get like 5 or 6 different experiences out of me. So I'm working on
Wonderful.
that as well. So I'll also have some singing shows coming up. Just stay tuned. So one will be like, oh, this is just me just singing. Here's one with me singing all in impressions. And
Yeah.
here's like one of me just singing musical theater pieces. So keep an eye out on my Instagram. And if you don't follow me already on Facebook, please follow me so that you can hear about when I'm doing these things.
Well, let's go over the Facebook then. You mentioned you're on social media, so I'm going to put that out there for people to go ahead and follow you and to keep up to date. You're also fairly active on Instagram, so it's Magic Asian Man,
Yep,
and
Magic Asian Man. As many things as I could, I made Magic Asian Man. I think the only thing I don't own that's Magic Asian Man is Twitter. Somebody managed to get Magic Asian Man before me on Twitter, so that's just
yeah,
Naathan Phan. But everything else, so like my TikTok, I'm not very active on TikTok. I apologize.
right,
But Snapchat, whatever it is, if you just look Magic Asian Man up on like any social media platform,
yes,
I'm there. The other really fun one that I do enjoy doing, and I've been on break for a while, is there's this great app called Smule. And it's basically like a
Smule.
karaoke app. It's great. So check out Smule. What you do
Okay,
is you get to pick these karaoke tracks, and then you just
yes,
record yourself singing them, and then you can add reverb and add a filter to it, and then you can
wonderful.
also join people on duets and stuff. So I'm always posting like one side of duets, and people can come and join me on the other. So it's kind of like Instagram meets karaoke, and it's fantastic. Check it out. Smule, same username, Magic Asian Man. Denise says, daughter still talks about how we saw Magic Asian Man. That's amazing, incredible. And Judy,
Yes.
oh, thank you so much, Judy. I appreciate that. And Anessa as well saying definitely worth my time. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
I really do
You,
appreciate it.
you,
It's nice to kind of get this feedback again because it's been
yes.
a while. Like even when I book virtual shows, it's not as often because I'm used to doing 2 to 4 shows a week on cruise ships. And then before that, I was performing at this place in Orange County called Teatro Martini, where we would do anywhere from like 2 to 4 shows a week. So I'm used to getting like a lot of this like love from strangers,
Right.
which ping, you get a little bit of the little buzz of endorphins and things like that to stimulate your brain. And now my brain's working on a deficit of this stuff. So now these amazing comments are coming in. And
Now, Nathan,
it's
I know you do have a website, so I'm going to put that up there as well, so that people can find you. Now, could they find a list of your shows when you do start posting them up? What is the
yes.
best place to get them at?
If you go, the best source is to go to magicasianman.com. There's a tab that says upcoming.
Okay.
And when you click on that, I just post everything that I'm doing. And then sometimes it takes a little while for me to catch up to the things that I have done. So you might need to scroll past some previous things. But right now, there's, like I said, I'm working on a public virtual show and working on doing some more of that stuff. And I want to just start posting more things to my YouTube as well, whether it's like how to make certain cocktails or how to, little tiny like fashion hacks, that sort of thing. I've been trying to work on looking into getting a Guinness World Record because I found out that there's a Guinness World Record for tying a double Windsor, and I've practiced a few times and I know for sure I can beat that time. So I want to see if I can set that Guinness World Record. And also, there's no Guinness World Record for tying a four-in-hand necktie knot with one hand. So I could set that record very easily.
Well, we would be honored if you would maybe put some practices here on Faust and Company, or even try to make an attempt to get it done here. So I'm very curious to see that as well. Just tying a Windsor knot in itself is difficult. But Nathan, you mentioned to me about lectures, so I wanted to go over that. You are up for the 2020 Lecture of the Year with Penguin Magic, and
Absolutely mental, yes.
Yeah, could you give us a little bit about that?
So there is for anyone who's not a magician, one of the biggest magic distributors and content creators in the world is Penguin Magic. And penguins happen to be my favorite animal, so I've been aware of them for years and years and years. Thank you, Ralph. Good to hear from you. Gavin Hall says he wants to hear me sing some Spice Girls. Joe Namish, all about walking. Yes, boy, what a throwback, deep cut. They also host these. They have these lectures. Right now, they're doing these things called live acts, and you come in and you do like a 20 to 30-minute performance in front of a live audience, and then they bring you back the next day where it's just the camera people and the crew and your host, and then you teach how the stuff works, and you get asked questions about it. You talk about the psychology, the routines, and why you arrange things a certain way, and you teach a live act. And so they release 1 or 2 of these a month, and apparently last year, me and 5 other magicians were nominated for Best Lecture of the Year through Penguin Magic. So that's quite an honor. If you're interested, the lectures, if you go to penguinmagic.com and look up Naathan Phan, you'll see my live act.
I think we are technical Nathan,
we're back. All right.
So I don't know what happened there, but the gremlins are out tonight. But we're back.
Sometimes I know how it is because I've also got I've got a remote control on my ankle that controls my music. If it gets close to a magnet, it'll play the next track. So every once in a while, I'm like, oh, no, hold on.
Yes, I was just standing here and things just started happening, but we're
all
back.
Of a sudden, your Stream Deck just said, did you hit a button? No, we're going to activate this queue anyways. Beep.
Yeah.
If you go to my website, also I have a store it's mostly like some of it is like merchandise, but it's mostly like magic tricks that's geared towards like other magicians to buy. So I do have like a kit and some other things. But if you're interested in checking out the live act, you can go to my website and you can buy it, I think, for a discounted rate through me, or just shoot me email. If you just go to magicasianman.com, there's a contact form, send it to me. I'm usually pretty good at getting back to people. So if you want to learn stuff that I do, just check out magicasianman.com. Or if you want to improve your act, and now is a great time for self-improvement. I know money is tight. And I understand that, but now is the time to invest in yourself, because that's what this time really is for. So if you're interested in getting some consulting sessions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email and let me know, because I always want to help in any way that I can other magicians learn, because the better each individual magician is, the better magic is perceived as a whole, and that's never a bad thing.
That is a great summary, Nathan. And there are a lot of people just getting into magic, and it's good to know that
Mm.
you are open to helping and consulting
Oh yeah.
people in magic. So I encourage everyone out there to reach out to Nathan. Nathan, I wish I could have you longer here. It is a pleasure talking to you, and
Likewise.
just getting your whole insight on things. We'd love to have you back and talk up some more and see more magic and music. Nathan, is there any thoughts or any words of advice to people out there, just in general, before we close out this show?
Yeah, I'd like to just say to people that I know it's a very interesting time right now, but remember that we are not each other's enemies, and that we truly are in this together. There is no us versus them. It is truly just us together on this planet. So you have to take care of yourself in whichever way it is. I know some days I even find myself struggling to just do basic things. Sometimes like put on clothes or shower, and that doesn't mean you've failed in any sense or form in that day. It just means that you are doing what you have to survive that day, and that is the important thing here: is take care of yourself, take care of those around you, in any way that you can, and that we are going to get through this together. And I hope to be able to perform for you all live and in person, or live virtually, at some point in the very, very near future. So stay tuned, stay safe, and keep buggering on.
Thank you, Nathan. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my pleasure, and I hope that all of you out there have enjoyed this episode of Faust and Company. This is the Magic Asian Man, Naathan Phan, and if you're not following him already, give him a follow on his social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and www.magicasianman.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Naathan Phan, and I'm Chris Herren as Faust, and we will see you here again on another time. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.